Hello friends, this is Durga again from ITversity, a one-stop shop to learn all the technologies. At this time I am talking about HDPCA or Hortonworks Data Platform Certified Administrator. As part of this video under security, I will be covering installing and configuring Knox. So this is considered as under the security. So Knox is a gateway to manage the clusters from command line. So if you go to the official Knox documentation and go to the introduction, it says it is a system that provides a single point of authentication and access for Apache Hadoop services in a cluster. It's about services, not the data. What are the services? So these are the Hadoop services we have, and Knox try to provide single point of authentication and access for those services in a cluster. The goal is to simplify Hadoop security for both users and operators. The gateway runs as a server. So Knox have a component called gateway that provides centralized access to one or more Hadoop clusters. So you can have as many Hadoop clusters as you want, and there will be a centralized Knox server which will actually provide access to those Hadoop clusters. So provide perimeter security for Hadoop REST APIs to make Hadoop security easier to set up and use. So Knox commands uses REST APIs, and using REST APIs we can use commands such as curl like this, and we can take necessary actions on the cluster. So there is a get command, put command, etc. So if you want to get a file in HDFS via Knox, you do like this. So the request will go through Knox gateway server, and it will go to the Hadoop cluster, and it will try to get the files for you. We will see once we set up the environment. Here I will not get into too many details about Knox, because the curriculum says install and configure Knox. So as long as we can set up Knox and perform some basic validations, that is good enough. And to go to the official documentation for the certification, you can click on this link. This documentation is from Hortonworks, and it will be better to refer this documentation in case of any questions. Okay. On top of providing the security, it will also provide a single URL hierarchy that aggregates REST APIs of a Hadoop cluster. So all the commands, all the clusters can be managed using one centralized URL, and all the REST APIs to manage several clusters can be done through one single URL hierarchy. All the internal Hadoop cluster topology will be hidden from potential attackers. So as the Hadoop cluster topology will not be exposed, it will make the cluster secure. For example, if you want to do certain tasks using a web interface like this, you need to understand the topology. What are the IP addresses? What are the components that are installed on this? And then only you will be able to perform any actions on the services or the components of the services. Whereas using Knox, you don't need to worry about the topology. You can just use one centralized URL as part of the curl command, and you can take care of the management of your cluster or services that are running on your cluster. So setting up is very easy. Go to Ambari, click on Actions, Add Service, and here we want to set up Knox. So select Knox, click on Next. So there will be a centralized master server for Knox, and I will be choosing 37 for it. If you want to change, you can just expand this and choose some other one. And I think you can also add more gateways if you want high availability. in this case I am only configuring with one. Click on next, and there is no clients or slaves associated with Knox, hence you can directly click on next. So you can enter Knox master secret here. Yeah, we are setting up new one, so you can give whatever you want. So here I am giving it as IT University, and then when you actually set up Knox, you typically set up the gateways, and you can see the details for the gateways here. Okay, you can also integrate Knox with Kerberos, LDAP, etc. for authentication purpose, so that when users issue curl type of commands, the users will be authenticated through Kerberos or LDAP. So if you want to run any service, any command to against the services using REST APIs using curl command, then Kerberos or LDAP will come into picture. And then click on next. Click on proceed anyway, and scroll down and click on deploy. So now the Knox will be deployed on the cluster. It will take a while to complete, and then we will review. So it has already deployed, and now it is waiting to start the Knox gateway. So the installation is done. Now we can click on next and click on complete. That's when you can ignore these kind of errors. Sometimes we need to make sure that Knox is up and running after the page is refreshed without any errors on the cluster. So now it is restarted successfully, but the services have to be restarted. This is a very important step. Unless you restart the services which are highlighted with these circular arrows, orange colored circular arrows, then your answer might not be considered as a correct answer. So make sure you restart the services once you configure any service, and if other services are highlighted like this. So you can click on restart all affected on HDFS, on map reduce, and also on yarn. So the services are being restarted. You can see HDFS is restarted, and then it has to restart map reduce as well as yarn. And also you can see that Knox is running here. There is a Knox gateway that is running on whatever node we have configured. The node is 37. If you expand the components on 37, you will find Knox running on it. So as part of the certification, if they give about Knox, they will tell what will be the gateway. That is the only important aspect of installing and configuring the Knox. Once it is installed, you can log into the host on which the Knox is set up, and then go to cd etc Knox conf and ls-ltr, and you can see that there is a XML file called gateway-site. This will define the properties for the Knox gateway server. So you can open this one, gateway site.xml, and Knox gateway is running on port number 8443. Okay, and then the topologies will be defined in directory called topologies, and here you have the default.xml and admin.xml. The admin.xml will have details about integrating with LDAP and other related stuff. It's primarily for administration. And then another file called default.xml will have the topology. Topology is your cluster configuration. So you can see each of the services that are running on our cluster, or each of the component of a service that is running on our cluster. For example, our name node is running on this URL. Actually, it is using namespace because we are using high availability for name node, but here the topology is defined with the current active name node. So this is not correct. Ideally, it should have the namespace. I'm not sure whether Knox is tested against the high available cluster or not. For now, it just picked the active name node. Similarly, the case with the job tracker, which is resource manager in our case, which is running on 8050 port. So like that, for each and every URL, you for each and every URL that is applicable for our cluster, the topology, a service is defined as part of the topology default.xml file. Okay, so this is how the topology will be defined, and now we can hide the IP addresses and port number and refer using a name such as name node while running the commands on this cluster. For example, so validation is a little bit challenge here because we need to create users, etc. Anyway, we will wrap up for now. Make sure you have understanding of all the configuration files. We have the gateway site.xml, which will define the properties of the gateway. We have the topologies directory, and in that there is the default.xml, which will define the services, and then there is the users.ldif. So that will it's again in the etc Knox conf directory. If you view users.ldif and hit enter, you will see different sets of different types of users. You have to modify this file according to the organization. Right now they have the file is created with the default users such as guest, admin, and other users. So validation looks like this one. So you can run curl command curl -i -k -u with username and password from this user.ldif file -X get if you want to get some information, and then you can give the URL. So the URL contains the gateway IP address and port number /gateway/ the cluster name. The cluster name is from here, HDP23, and then the service name, and then the rest of the stuff. Okay, so this is how you can actually validate the services in services that are supported by Knox. I will upload another video about validating each and every service, but that is not important for the certification. For the certification, it's the installation and configuration. and each service, for example, Woozy needs to have different type of command, web HDFS needs to have different type of command, and also there are certain challenges when it comes to integrating with high availability clusters. For example, if you go to the topology, the name node service is hard coded with one of the IP addresses. If this IP address is not active, you cannot query against this. I'm not sure whether Knox is tested against high availability, but if you go to this Knox documentation, they have mentioned that it is tested with some components in Hadoop ecosystem, not all. Here you can see it is tested with web HDFS, web HCAT, Woozy, HBase, blah blah blah. And even if you go to the web HDFS, it is hard coded. And if this is not if this is not active name node, then it will not work. In this case, if you go here and click on HDFS, the active name node is 38, not 39, but this file have that 39 to point to web HDFS. Probably we might have to add two services, one for name node 01 and another one for name node 2, web HDFS also for 1 and 2, and we have to hard code. I think we cannot use the namespace URLs, but it is not explicitly mentioned in the documentation. However, don't worry too much about it. I don't think as part of the certification they go up to that level. So make sure you understand the steps to install and configure using Ambari. It's very straightforward. Go to Actions, Add Service. Make sure the gateway is chosen as per the certification exam requirement if it is asked in the certification. That being said, I hope you are enjoying the content on the channel. If you like this video, please click on the like button. If you want to provide the feedback, please use the comment section of the video. If you want to discuss further about certifications or big data, please join my LinkedIn groups called ITversity-certifications or ITversity-big data. And finally, if you are not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so. You will get to see a lot more content like this over time. Thank you. Bye.